Today's deep dive is all about this existential challenge that's facing Bitcoin's long-term future and the really radical movement that's sprung up to try and save it.
That's right. At its core, this is about a movement. We're talking digital matter theory, the NAT token, the Bitmap metaverse.
Right.
All of it is aimed at solving Bitcoin's single greatest long-term threat.
The security budget crisis.
The security budget crisis, yeah. Our mission today is to really unpack this whole defense mechanism that's being built. The sources call it a second valid subsidy.
A second valid subsidy. Okay, let's trace this whole thing. We're going to start with the problem, that ticking clock, and then get into the unlikely technical loophole that opened the door for all this. Then we'll dive into the philosophy digital matter theory, see how that created actual virtual land with Bitmap, and then wrap it all up with this very aggressive 2026 prediction for NAT's non-arbitrary tokens as the kind of the big solution.
The complete story. Engineering, philosophy, economics, all merging together.
Exactly.
So we have to start with the clock. For years, people have known the security budget is a potential issue.
Right, the halving.
The halving. Every 4 years, the reward paid to miners for creating a block, it gets cut in half. So over time, the network security has to rely almost entirely on transaction fees.
And if those fees don't rise enough consistently, miners just can't afford to run their machines.
Exactly. They face an unsustainable revenue squeeze. And the real risk, as you said, isn't just a slow decay.
It's centralization.
It's centralization. As the smaller miners drop off, all that hash power consolidates into just a few massive operations. And that is a huge systemic risk.
And the sources frame this whole problem with a specific timeline, don't they? They point to the predicted 2026 bear market.
They do. The consensus in these articles is that 2025 kicked off a long, sort of necessary contraction for the whole industry. That means 2026 is going to be defined by what they're calling the Great Consolidation.
And this isn't just about, prices going down. The sources lay out a kind of perfect storm. Prices are expected to fall, or at least fail to recover, which keeps that 4-year cycle going for now. But then you have this intense sell pressure from big institutional holders. They call them DATs, digital asset treasury companies.
Right, so the market isn't just cooling off, it's being actively sold into.
Exactly. And that hits the miners directly. I mean, if Bitcoin does bottom out somewhere in that $50,000 to $60,000 range they're predicting.
A price that a lot of people right now would see as just the ultimate disappointment.
Yeah.
A betrayal, even.
Right. At that price, the revenue problem becomes critical. You couple that with a collapse in block space demand. If the speculative meme coin stuff just capitulates.
Then you get hash power consolidating at a record pace. It's an economic inevitability.
Because the old argument was always just, well, we'll just raise the fees.
Right.
Just encourage more L1 experimentation, jam more stuff on chain.
And that's the default answer, but it just fundamentally misunderstands the scale of the problem. Bitcoin has this hard limit. You can only fit about 160 million transactions per year on the network. That's it.
That's not a lot.
It's not. And relying on fees from that tiny capacity to secure a multi-trillion-dollar asset, especially when the block reward is basically zero, the math just doesn't work. It demands a totally different kind of solution.
Okay, so if the economy is this ticking clock, where did the community even find the tools to build a life raft? I mean, how did a peer-to-peer cash system all of a sudden become a platform for these complex digital artifacts?
The answer is pure technical jiu-jitsu. It all comes down to the Ordinal protocol, which launched back in January 2023, and how it just creatively used existing Bitcoin upgrades that were never, ever intended for this.
Right, ordinals. Let's make sure we've got the mechanics down. It starts with the Satoshi, the smallest possible piece of a Bitcoin.
Exactly. The first step is that ordinals gives every single Satoshi, and that's 100 millionth of a BTC, a unique serial number. It's based on the exact order it was mined. So suddenly, they're identifiable.
And once it has an ID, you can attach stuff to it, the inscription.
You can attach data. But the real trick, the loophole that let all this data flood in, came from Taproot, which was activated back in late 2021.
Okay, this is the key.
This is the key. It's all about the witness section of a transaction. Traditionally, that part was just for, non-essential stuff, mainly the digital signatures you need to prove ownership.
So it was for proof, not for data storage.
Right. But Taproot basically opened the floodgates to that section, letting people store huge amounts of data in there, almost up to the full 4 megabyte block size link.
But wait, that's only half of it. The truly critical piece was the witness discount from SegWit.
Yes. That's the secret sauce. Think of the Bitcoin network as a highway. The main lane for financial data is expensive. The SegWit discount basically made the witness section like an HOV lane or maybe a freight lane where the tolls are way, way cheaper.
They get bargain price storage.
Bargain price storage. And that's why we immediately got the ordinals war.
Okay, hang on. If Ordinals is using a discount that was meant for efficiency to just, flood the network with what critics call spam, aren't the maximalists kind of right? Isn't that technically an exploit?
And that is the exact tension the sources point to. The critics, people like the developer Luke Dash Jr., they called it spam and exploit. They were terrified of chain bloat, rising node costs, anything that hurts decentralization.
They want a clean, cash-only ledger.
A pristine ledger.
Yeah.
But the proponents, like the Taproot Wizards, they fired back and said this fee revenue is the defense mechanism. It's the solution to the security crisis we just talked about.
Right, because it was working.
It was working. Over 59 BTC was paid to miners in just the first few months. They argue that if Bitcoin can't evolve to create new revenue, it'll centralize anyway from economic failure. So this isn't an exploit.
Yeah.
It's an immune response.
Okay, so moving past the technical fight, the success of ordinals gave birth to this whole philosophical framework, digital matter theory, or DMT. And this seems to be a shift away from just clever tricks and more towards defining value. This idea of discovering inherent patterns in Bitcoin's data rather than just inventing them.
This is where that idea of non-arbitrary value comes in. The whole philosophy is based on a kind of thermodynamic analogy.
Okay.
All the massive energy the proof-of-work miners spend, it creates this incredibly secure, highly ordered, low-entropy blockchain. DMT says because this ordered state is so stable and expensive, we can actually extract reliable digital commodities, digital substance, right from its data.
So how is that different philosophically from how, say, Ethereum creates scarcity?
That's a great question. Ethereum's smart contracts create programmable scarcity. We agree on the rules, the code sets the supply. DMT is about discovered scarcity. They're not writing a new rule. They're pointing at an immutable, already existing piece of data in a Bitcoin block and saying, that right there, that thing right there, which changes predictably based on the laws of physics that secure the chain.
Yeah.
That is a digital element with inherent non-arbitrary value.
Which leads to this crazy, ambitious vision of a digital periodic table.
Yeah, I mean, they're indexing thousands of digital elements derived from specific verifiable data fields, like just from the bits field in the block header, which measures mining difficulty, you can get 60 different elements.
And those become the building blocks for the new assets, the NATs and the UNATs.
Right, and this focus on efficiency leads to this really revolutionary way they create the UNATs, the non-fungible artifacts. It's not about massive image files.
Not at all. The genius is in the creation process itself. The art isn't a huge JPEG file that you inscribe 10,000 times. Instead, the creator inscribes one tiny, lightweight piece of code, a generative art script.
Like HTML or SVG. It's a blueprint.
Yeah, think of it like this. Instead of carving 10,000 massive stone statues, you just inscribe one 300-byte blueprint and a unique serial number. And that tells the browser how to construct the final unique piece every single time it loads.
Exactly. The mint inscription itself can be tiny, like 291 bytes of JSON text. The browser just runs the script, plugs in the ID, and draws the asset in real time. It's cheaper for creators, and the art is always at infinite resolution.
This efficiency also enables concepts like block drops instead of airdrops. Why is that important for, building a persistent world?
Because block drops rely on parent-child provenance. They don't need the original team to be around in 5 years to validate them. They link a new asset's origin directly and immutably to an existing on-chain asset, like a Bitmap parcel. That guarantees longevity, which is absolutely crucial if you're building a world that needs to work decades from now.
And that guarantee of persistence brings us right to Bitmap. This is the flagship application of DMT. It's a huge social consensus standard that turns every single piece of Bitcoin block data into virtual real estate.
The scale is it's immense. And the structure is mapped directly onto the Bitcoin ledger. Every block ever mined becomes a district.
And every transaction inside that block becomes an individual parcel.
Right. We're talking about, 800,000 districts and potentially 850 million parcels in total.
850 million parcels. I mean, to give you some context, that's enough land to give every single person in the U.S. about 2 Bitmap parcels. And the scarcity is totally non-arbitrary. The land exists because the block exists. It's guaranteed by proof of work.
And the market reaction just confirmed the demand for this. The initial block out, where everyone raced to claim the existing blocks, it happened in just 17 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And its market cap, which is over $185 million now, it blew past Decentraland's entire land value, which is around $100 million. It just shows the demand for protocol-guaranteed scarcity.
Is that valuation just based on scarcity, though, or is there a real utility argument being made yet?
Right now, it's mostly scarcity, but the utility really depends on the next big challenge, the standards race.
Okay.
Once the land was claimed, the whole fight shifted to defining the universal language for those 850 million parcels. The rules have to be, as they say, resolvable and repeatable to stop what they call reality forks.
What on earth is a reality fork?
It's if the rules for defining the size or shape of a parcel are too complex or subjective. If that happens, then all the decentralized indexers, the people running their own copies of the map, they won't agree on what the metaverse looks like.
So my map might show my land as a giant square, but yours shows it's a tiny triangle.
Exactly. And the whole thing falls apart. You need radical simplicity for it to be stable.
And we're seeing two main standards emerge here. You have Bliss, which uses technical data like virtual bytes for size, but even that still requires project names and labels.
And then you have Bitplot, which is focused on financialization. They take historical block data and multiply it by this arbitrary factor of 21.
Okay, why is that number 21 such a problem for the DMT philosophy?
Because it breaks the core rule. If you introduce an arbitrary human-decided number like 21, you're forcing everyone to rely on external information, not just the raw, immutable data on the chain. That complexity leads back to centralized indexers and the risk of reality forks.
Right.
The goal is to build a TCP/IP for the metaverse, a protocol so simple that anyone can run an indexer and get the exact same stable map without asking permission.
And the financial side is already being built. We saw OrSwap propose a Bitmap trust, basically like GBTC, to bring institutional money and liquidity to this whole new real estate asset class.
So let's bring it all back to the first problem, the security crisis. This is where the non-arbitrary token, NAT, plays its starring role.
Right. NAT is designed to be that second valid subsidy.
It's a mechanism built specifically to deliver non-native, non-arbitrary revenue to miners, a system that's completely decoupled from Bitcoin's own mechanics of exponential decay. It's an external revenue stream.
Designed to step in when the block subsidy finally gives out.
Exactly. And the sources lay out a very strategic timeline for NAT's ascent in 2026. Q1 saw the V1 launch, which kicked off some early momentum, especially with its integration into Solana DXs to get reach.
Then comes the real test in Q2 and Q3. This is that consolidation period where Bitcoin is predicted to bottom out in that $50,000 to $60,000 range.
But that moment of profound market disappointment is actually predicted to be what solidifies the community. The speculation gets flushed out, and the core believers and builders are what's left.
Right. And that stronger community then sets the stage for the Q3 V2 inflection point. They launch new creator tools that make it way easier to build DMT apps.
And this all leads to the finale in Q4, institutional recognition. The sources are specific. They name Western mining institutions like Foundry as officially recognizing and adopting NAT methods, aiming for something like 90% adoption across all Bitcoin hash power.
And if the miners, the ultimate arbiters of security, adopt this, that's when the flywheel effect really starts spinning. The V2 tools create this exponential growth of new DMT apps, which in turn creates demand for the base NAT asset.
And this is what cements NATs as a new digital primitive. We're talking about Exhibit 3. In the crypto world, you have BTC as digital gold, ETH as programmable money, and now NAT as the protocol for generating verifiable, non-arbitrary value on Bitcoin.
So that's the value inflection point. Bitcoin is bottoming out at 50K, but this whole DMT ecosystem is exploding. That growth and awareness accelerates NAT's buyback pressure, driving its market cap to a predicted $1 to $4 billion by early 2027.
And that valuation, that's the key metric. If NAT gets to that level, it's consistently delivering more value to miners than the transaction fees on their own ever could. That's the revenue flow that finally secures Bitcoin's long-term future.
So when you take a step back, this deep dive shows a full stack strategic response to Bitcoin's economic reality. It started with a technical loophole in Taproot.
Then build a whole philosophical infrastructure with DMT on top of that.
And finally developed these massive utility-driven applications like Bitmap. All of it, the whole thing, is aimed at securing the network's future.
The really critical takeaway, I think, is how this whole ordinals movement, especially with rare sats, the uncommons, rares, epics, things like the pizza sats, it fundamentally challenges Bitcoin's original idea of fungibility.
Yeah, for the first time, one Satoshi is not the same as another Satoshi. Some have this inherent, verifiable, historical value. So, what does this all mean for you watching this unfold? If the core value of the rarest sats is rooted purely in immutable history, I mean, we saw that epic sat auction for $2.1 million. And if this movement continues, how will you view Bitcoin's total market cap if eventually every single Satoshi holds an inscription, transforming the entire supply from interchangeable digital cash into a collection of unique, historical digital artifacts?
It's a profound question.
It really is. Thank you for supplying the sources for this deep dive.